Hey guys, it's Luke Yan, and today I am going to be doing a little bit of a different video. Today I'm going to be filming a college advice video. So I know this is not my typical book-related content, but I've been wanting to make these videos for a really long time because these are the types of videos that I sought out when I was applying to colleges last year, and it's always a video that I really wanted to do to pass along my wisdom and give some sage advice to the people in the application sphere. I also thought that this would be a good video to announce where I am going to college because I've hinted that I will be attending college in the fall, and I actually leave in 2 days at the time that I'm filming this. By the time this is uploaded, I will likely already be moved in and starting classes, but I thought that this would be a good opportunity to announce that I will be attending the University of Richmond for the next 4 years. So the University of Richmond has been at the top of my list for a really, really long time. I applied, and I remember having visited the school, and my sister was applying to colleges, and I was really interested in it. And then as I began to learn more about it and watch videos and read their information online and just hear from other people who have gone there, I just fell completely in love with it. And when I was admitted in March, I decided to visit the campus because I was so elated, and I somehow fell in love with it even more, and I decided to enroll, and I could not be happier with my decision. So yeah, I will be spending the next 4 years of my college career in Richmond, Virginia, and I'm super excited about it, and I honestly I can't wait, but I am a little bit nervous, so it's just a mix of emotions right now. But I thought that I would still pass along some of the advice and some of the lessons that I learned during the admissions process, and I have a full list on my phone. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is to start early. And I know a lot of people think what I mean by that is to start the summer before your senior year of high school. That's actually not what I mean. What I mean is that I think you should start researching colleges towards the end of your sophomore year of high school. So really start to research things in the summer between sophomore and junior year, because I feel like at that point you finished half of high school. You kind of know the trajectory of your high school career already. You know what grades you get. You know your study habits. You kind of know maybe you've taken a PSAT or a PACT, whatever, and you know kind of the types of schools you should be looking at. You know if you should be looking at a Harvard type of school. You know if you should be looking at maybe a school with acceptance rates of 30% or more, or 70% or more. You kind of know where you fall. And I would recommend kind of just doing a broad research. So figuring out what types of schools in terms of the competitiveness you should be applying. So I think there are a bunch of different kinds of schools. So there are schools with acceptance rates between 1 and 10%. Those are the Ivy League institutions, the top 20 universities and colleges. So think Duke or Northwestern or I don't know, Williams, Swarthmore, Pomona, those types of schools. Then you have schools between 10 and 25%. So that would be a school like Emory University in Georgia, Middlebury College, the University of Richmond, Washington and Lee, schools like that. And then there are schools with between 25 and 50%. So that would be schools like the University of Florida. I can't even think of them off the top of my head, but there are a bunch of different types of schools. So figure out where you kind of fall in relation to that based on your grades, maybe your test scores if you have some, your extracurricular activities, all of that. Then decide what type of school you want. So do you want a big urban type of university like Boston University or NYU or Columbia, something like that? Or do you want a small liberal arts type of institution like Carleton College or Vassar or Davidson, Hamilton, Colgate, schools like that? There's also in-between schools, so there's also the giant public universities, so UNC Chapel Hill, UVA, the UC schools, the University of Michigan. There's schools that are mid-sized, so William and Mary, for example, Boston College, The University of Rochester, I think, would kind of fall under that. Tufts University. And then also decide what type of vibe you want. Do you want a party school? Do you want, a good mix between the two? Do you want one where like studying is the main focus? You can kind of figure out what atmosphere and what type of school you want. And then junior year, once you maybe start taking tests, you'll decide if you're going test optional or not, all that sort of stuff. And then I think you should really kick it into high gear the summer between junior and senior year. You should start writing essays. You should really finalize your list by August because that's when the Common App opens. And I think you should have most of your applications ready before you start high school. I know that's not possible for a lot of people because they start in August, but for me, I started high school, like my senior year of high school, like September 5th or something like that last year, I think. So I did most of my essays in August when the Common App opened. My next piece of advice is to apply early. So that means early decision 1, early decision 2, and early action. So I think everyone should definitely have at least 2 early action schools on their list. So some popular early action schools would be the University of Richmond. Obviously, there are a lot of public universities that have early action. Villanova has early action. Union College has early action. Those are some of the schools that I applied to. And then there's also early decision 1 and early decision 2, both of which are binding agreements. So early decision 1 is in November, and if you apply and you are admitted under the early decision plan, then you will have to attend that college or university. Same with early decision 2. The only difference is that early decision 2 is in January. So you would find out from your early decision school about mid-December, and you would also find out from your early decision 2 school in like mid-February. So I think if you apply to an early decision 1 school, you apply to your early action schools in November as well. You find out from your early decision school in December, and then you can kind of pivot if you need to, apply to some different schools before those like early January deadlines for regular decision. I think applying early is really, really helpful because a lot of the time, almost all the time for early decision, it's a higher acceptance rate, and also for early action, it kind of just gives you peace of mind, and okay, even if I don't get into my early decision school, I'm going to find out from these early action schools in January, it's all going to be fine. So it kind of just allows you to have a sense of calm. Fourth on my list, also these are in no particular order, they were kind of just as I thought about them, is to make sure you're strategic about who you are asking for letters of recommendation and stay on top of them. So usually the typical amount of letters of recommendation for most colleges and universities is 2. So I would recommend getting 1 STEM teacher, so science or math, and 1 humanities teacher, so foreign language, English, or social studies. For me personally, I actually had 3 letters of recommendation from different teachers. So I had 1 from my junior year math teacher, I had 1 from my Italian teacher who I had throughout high school, and then I had 1 from my AP English language teacher. And if schools allowed me to send all 3, I would do that. If they only allowed me to send 2, I would kind of figure out who should, be sent to whom. I think it's a good thing to have just 2 and then have 1 STEM and 1 humanities, because there are a few schools that specify that they want 1 STEM and 1 humanities. So Wesleyan University and MIT are 2 that come to mind. But a lot of schools, even if they don't say it, they like to see that. They like to see that you're a well-rounded individual. And teachers, they get a lot of requests to write letters of recommendation, so definitely stay on top of them. Make sure that you're emailing them. Make sure that you're, when the deadlines are coming up, make sure you check in with them and just ensure that they know when the deadlines are so that you don't get, screwed over. I said the last one was number 4, but this one is actually number 4 because I skipped one. My third one was building a college list, but I kind of touched on that earlier. So the real number 4, or I guess 5, whatever, is to try not to take rejection personally. I got rejected from quite a few schools, I got deferred from quite a few schools, and it's really easy, especially if it's an early decision school, to take it very personally and be like, I was committed to going, if I'd gotten in, I would have gone, what didn't they see in me? But you have to understand that you are just as qualified if, there are people that are just as qualified, or maybe even more qualified, that are getting in, so it's just a thing that's it really just comes down to luck, timing, and then like just other factors that you cannot control. Like by senior year, you can't really control your GPA that much. You can't control the extracurriculars you've done. You can't control your test scores so much. So it really is not personal. Like when a college is rejecting your application, they are not rejecting you as a human being. Like, so I just feel like that was something that I always heard like when I was getting rejected from schools, but it really is true, and it's something to take to heart because you can really like drive yourself nuts thinking about why they rejected you, because the truth of the matter is you could get rejected from a school with a higher acceptance rate than a school that you get into. And it just really, like, my early decision school, their early decision acceptance rate is about 40% because, you know, you're committed to going, so they want to enroll as many students as possible, so the early decision acceptance rate was about 40%. The University of Richmond's regular decision acceptance rate is under 20%. So, you know, it's kind of a weird thing. The college admission process doesn't make any sense that much, but every school is different, so don't take it personally, and I would try not to take it to heart. Next, I have make a spreadsheet or folder with all of your essays organized, because it is really tough, especially if you're applying to like 12, 13, 14, 15 or more schools. It's tough to keep track of all of the supplemental essays that you're writing, because you will kind of just like write the essays but then be like, which school is this about again? Or like, you know, you're like, once you've written them and you're like reading them through, you're like trying to figure out, especially if it's something that's non-college specific, so if it's not one of those that's like, why Dartmouth or whatever, it can be difficult to kind of keep track of everything. So I would recommend making a spreadsheet, like either in Excel or Google Sheets, and writing down like every college's name, how many supplemental essays they have, whether you've done them or not, things like that, so you can kind of just see everything. And I think spreadsheets are really important in the college admissions process. You can see, you know, oh, this college has early decision 1, early decision 2, early action, and regular decision, or this school only has early action and regular decision, or this school has early decision 1 but they don't have early decision 2, things like that, where you can kind of just see it all in one thing instead of having to research every time you like forget something. So having a spreadsheet is always a really good idea. Next, I have some essay tips. So number 1 is don't show your essay to too many people. I would recommend just showing it to like maybe one member of your family and a college counselor, like whether it's the college counselor at your high school or a private college counselor. I would say any more than 3 people reading your essay is probably a bad idea, because you're going to have too many conflicting opinions and you're not going to be able to find your own through all the muck. So definitely limit the amount of people that you're showing your essay to, limit the amount of opinions that you're getting, and just make sure that you stay true to yourself the whole way through. Take advice, take criticism, but don't lose yourself in the process of writing your essays. And for the supplemental ones, I said take time with each one and really try to answer the prompt as best as possible. Whenever I was writing an essay, I would continue reading the prompt throughout the essay, and I would do multiple drafts, and I would always make sure that when I was reviewing my essays, that I was answering the question, and if I didn't, I would either rewrite the essay completely or I would make sure to like put it in writing that I was answering the question, because admissions officers, they don't read every single word of your essay. They're reading a lot of applications really, really quickly. Sometimes they only have 5 minutes for every application, and if they have, you know, your general Common App essay, they need to look at your transcript, they need to look at your extracurriculars, and they need to look at your supplemental essays. They're not going to read every single word, so you need to make it glaringly obvious that you are answering the question that they're posing. So I'm not going to read my full essay that I wrote for the University of Richmond, like their specific prompt, because for Richmond in particular, there's the Richmond question, which you have to answer. It's like usually 3 prompts and you pick one to answer. And the prompts that I picked, I don't think they kept it this year, but it was, tell us about the most unusual talent you have and how you've made it useful, and has to be between 350 and 600 words, and I picked something that I knew a lot of people wouldn't really have, and it was just the one that spoke to me. So I think, especially if you're looking at a list of possible supplemental questions that you can answer from one college, pick the one that you like have an immediate reaction to. That was the one that I had an immediate reaction to, and that was the one that like, I had, like, an immediate thought and, like, a idea for that essay. And so I wrote that essay, and I made sure that as I was writing the essay, I was answering the prompt, and just, you know, I was just making sure to stick to the question, which is really important. And 3 for the essay tips is to take the supplements seriously, because sometimes colleges value those the most out of anything, as one of the most important things out of your application. Sometimes they care about that more than your general Common App essay, because it shows, especially if it's like a why Haverford essay, you get to show how much you know about that college, and they get to see if you're really interested or not, or if you just applied to all the top 20 schools in the US News rankings. Next, I am going to talk about your activities list. So I would say don't feel pressured if you're using Common App to fill all 10 slots. I think it's more important to have 3 or 4 super meaningful things to you than to just list 10, activities that you did, like, barely throughout high school. So some of the things that I listed, for example, were this YouTube channel, because I've been doing it for 6 years, writing, like being an author. I was the editor-in-chief of my school's magazine, stuff like that. If you have a leadership position, that's really important to list. If you have, like, a hobby, like I do, I have 2 hobbies that I just listed right there. That could be a really interesting thing. And just make sure you take your activities list seriously, and I would say start your activities list in, like, April or May or June of your junior year, because that's something that you can work on throughout the summer while you're waiting for the supplemental essay prompts to kind of come through to the colleges that you're applying to, and it's something that you can really spend a lot of time on. So the activities list is super important. Then I have, don't be scared of applying or to be rejected, because applying is the first step to getting in. You never know, like, what's going to happen. There were schools that I applied to that I was not expecting to be admitted to that I were, and there were schools that I applied to that, maybe I thought I would get into it that I didn't. And it's all, like, just apply to the schools that you want to apply to. Don't be scared of rejection. Don't be scared of what others are saying. Just do you. And as I said, if you get rejected, it's just a part of life. Pick yourself back up, focus on the next couple of colleges, and just try not to take it too seriously. I also, kind of in the same vein, is to choose the school that's right for you. Don't worry about what other people are doing or saying. If, say, your friend got into a college that you didn't get into, or you got into a college that they didn't get into that they really wanted to go to, you shouldn't feel pressured to go to a school just because of, an exterior reason. Maybe you have to think about the financial aid that you're getting because of your family situation. Maybe you have to, just think about the culture, like, most importantly. Maybe you have to think about distance, things like that. Like, once you get all of your decisions and you're choosing where to go to college, this is where you're going to spend the next 4 years. It's really, really important to think about where you will be happiest. Don't think about people in your high school. Don't think about what your family is saying, unless, of course, it's, like, a situation that has to do with money or distance or something like that. But if it's just based on, like, which school you're choosing, don't listen to what other people are saying. Just do what you think is right for you, where you will be happiest, where you will feel yourself. And I think that's just the most important thing, is to choose the school that is the fit for you. And I do believe, I am, like, a firm believer in that there's not just one school for everyone. I hate when people are like, oh my god, I went here and I could not have imagined going anywhere else, because I think you would be just as happy at a lot of different schools. But I think that the point is to choose what is right for you in that moment. And then my last piece of advice kind of goes hand in hand with that, and that is to visit schools after you've been admitted, if you can. I know that that's a really expensive luxury, but if I had not visited Richmond after I was admitted, I might not have chosen it, because there were other schools that I had gotten into that I had visited more recently. So it was really important to go see it, and I know it's really expensive to do something like that, but I think it's really important also, and I think it will help you determine better what is the right school for you, because if you don't feel the vibe of every school that you were admitted to, how can you know that it is or is not the right fit for you? So I think that's really important. And I also just think that throughout the application process, my biggest piece of advice is to just stay true to yourself. Don't let people have too much input in your essays. Don't let people have too much input in your activities list or your college list or just anything. Make sure that the first person in your mind throughout the application process is yourself. Think about where you'll be happiest, and the rest will come together, I promise. So that is it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. All of my social media links are in the description box below. I would love to know, maybe, if you found this advice helpful. If you have any other advice, please drop it in the comment section down below. But yeah, that is it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!